Hello and welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be testing the differences between the Hero 10 and the Hero 11. They look so similar it's hard to tell them apart, but I can assure you there are some upgrades under the hood, namely the new sensor. So without further ado, let's get into it. So, new features with the Hero 11, we now have 10-bit colour. We also have an increased bit rate, so it goes from 100 up to 120. But is there really much of a difference? Let's have a look at the footage now. So with the 11, you still have the familiar 16:9 and 4:3 aspect ratios, but there's a new one that's 8:7. And with the 8:7 sensor, you get more space on the top and bottom of your image. Also, we have a new digital lens with the 11, which is called Hyperview. What that does is it uses the 8:7 sensor with the increased top and bottom, and it squishes it all into one image. So new with the 11, we now have time warp in 5.3K, whereas with the 10 it only goes up to 4K, so a new upgrade there. So the real benefit of the 8:7 sensor in the 11 is that you can film once and then crop without losing image quality to all your different social media sizes. So if you want to be 9:16 for a phone or 16:9 for YouTube, then you can do that all from this one 8:7 image without having to rotate the camera or anything. And another major improvement, we have a new feature where you can fully rotate the camera as if you had the max lens mod, where you can rotate the camera fully 360. It would lock the horizon exactly where it was, and so you'd be rotating and nothing would be moving. Now you can do it on the 11 without the max lens mod and in full 5.3K. So with the bigger sensor for the 11, we now have 27 megapixel photos. Now, megapixels aren't everything. You have more space. So when you take an image with the GoPro 11 over the GoPro 10, you just get more space at the top and bottom. And that's just perfect for more choices for cropping. With the 11, we now have Autoboost. And what that does is, rather than just cropping in fully when you're on the highest hypersmooth setting like you can on the 10, it will dynamically crop in when it needs to and then start edging out and giving you better quality when you don't need as much stabilisation. So for instance, if you're walking calmly, then it won't really need to crop in much, but then if you start running ferociously, it will crop in further to apply the better stabilisation. So that takes away the need to worry about, should I be on standard or boost, like you would need to think of when you're with the 10. So one of my favourite features of the GoPro Hero 11 are these new night modes. Now they really simplify getting sort of star trails and light streaks and things like that, which are kind of possible with older cameras, but now we've got it in the palm of our hands without anything extra needed. So what you would usually need ND filters and to do a sort of like post-production and stuff to get these kind of things, these effects in previous cameras, now you can do it all in camera, and it's simple, it saves space, it saves time, it saves batteries, and it is really, really effective. The star trails is a fantastic new feature on the 11. And it is possible with the 10, but to do it with the 10, you would have to take individual images and edit them all together to blend into one little star trail, which is a lot of hassle for most people, whereas with the 11 you can just do it all in camera and it's super effective, as you can see. And same with the car trails, you can do it. So I'll show you comparisons of when I've done it with the 10 and with the 11. Now as you can see, it just looks better with the 11. To get the short bit of footage I have on the 10, it takes us so much longer time because you have to have long frame capture times on the 10 in order to get a similar sort of effect. It just takes a lot longer. So I was there just for 2 seconds of footage for the 10, it took 20 minutes, something like 10-20 minutes, whereas with the 11 it takes 30 seconds to a minute. It's so quick. It's really, really great for people that want to do this kind of videography on the go without anything extra, just the camera as it is. Fantastic. Is overheating fixed? I'm sure by now you've seen other videos which have said no, it's not fixed. But I wanted to do my own tests. So with my tests, I put it on the highest resolution possible for both cameras, which is 5.3K, 50 frames per second, and I put hypersmooth onto boost on both cameras, so it's a more equal test. I turned 10-bit off on this camera, so they're both on an equal playing field. The only thing I couldn't change, which made it a slightly unfair test, was that on the high bitrate mode on the GoPro 11, it's 120 megabits per second, whereas on the 10 it's 100 megabits per second. So the 11 is working slightly harder. And the GoPro 10 overheated first, followed by the 11. So at least it's a step in the right direction. And honestly, I want to say this again, I have never ever ever had my 10 overheat when I've been using it for whatever uses I've had. But having said that, if you're going to be filming with a GoPro in a stationary position at high frame rates and a high resolution with all these settings and GPS and everything on, so I had it in power mode as well, so the Pro, power, everything's still on, GPS, etc. If you want to go in the stationary mode and turn all that off, then you will do better. But yes, the 11 does overheat if you use it at those sort of settings, which I never will. And I've never, honestly, never ever had it overheat in the situations I've used it. Now I use GoPro action cameras, I usually attach it to like a moving thing or do short shots, and that is the truth. So if that's not what you're doing, if you want it stationary, locked in a room with no airflow or anything like that, and it's warm, then it's going to overheat if you use those higher frame rates, I'm afraid. If you have any solutions for that, do let me know in the comments. Is it worth upgrading from the 10 to the 11? Well, that depends. If you want the ease of use of being able to do all these new light painting modes without any extra editing in the post-production process or any ND filters or anything like that, then the 11 is definitely worth the upgrade. If you want that bigger sensor for more real estate for cropping, then the 11 is worth it. If you want the 10-bit color and you can notice a difference, which it's not that obvious a difference if I'm honest, and unless you're doing proper color grading to match other cameras and stuff, you probably don't need the 10-bit codec yourself. And I don't know if it's even 422 10-bit or if it's 420. We don't actually have that information yet, so hopefully we can find that out. So I would say if you have the 10, it might be worth the upgrade. For me, I really love the extra height on the sensor for different cropping modes and also photography in portrait mode. Having that a bit wider, a bit more square, I think is really great for social media. Having that 360 horizon lock even in 5.3K is astronomical, you know, that's fantastic as well. So even though there was a lot of fear before this 11 came out, a lot of people thought it was going to be exactly the same as the 10. Surprisingly, pleasantly surprised, as we all were, it's actually a great upgrade. So if you're in the 9 or older, I'd say definitely upgrade. If you've got a 10, it's kind of up to you. If you have that much money to spend, then yeah, sell the 10, buy the 11. Maybe it'll only cost you a bit extra if you want those new modes. Or just wait till next year. I don't know. When I finally get the DJI Action 3, I'm going to be comparing these two. Also, with the One RS, we're going to do a full comparison of all these different cameras in lots of different modes and more thorough testing for battery life, etc, etc. So if you want to see that video, then definitely subscribe and turn on the notification bell to be notified when that goes live. As ever, I'll see you on the next one.